Get straight to some of the finer details here, because much of the success of your program, of this package, is going to depend on banks being willing to lend the additional liquidity capabilities that they have, and maybe even to SMEs. How confident are you that they're actually going to do that in this risk-averse environment?
Well, thank you. First, thank you very much. We have tried to do as much as we can to make it possible for banks to achieve our objective. And let me just spend a few minutes to explain or give you an idea about our plan. Our plan is a total of 100 billion targeted economic support scheme for retail corporate customers to contain this coronavirus pandemic on the U.A.E. economy. The targeted scheme consists of 50 billion from CBUE, which is the central bank, through collateralized loans at zero cost to all banks operating in the U.A.E., and an additional 50 billion funds freed up from banks' existing capital buffers. I want to highlight.
So, Governor, if I may just interject here and follow up in terms of who bears the risk, right? The banks are being asked to lend more. Are there government guarantees, or are the banks going to have to figure this out on their own?
No, eventually the banks, they are in the driving seat. They make the decisions, but we are making it possible for them to get zero interest loan, and also we are reducing some of the fees so that it is possible to give a break on terms of or what we call a holiday for 6 months, up to 6 months, and also provide cash flow funding.
Right. Governor, in terms of some of the other measures that might be on the table, because in the last few hours you had a Fed emergency rate decision, you had the Bank of Japan now upping its game as well. Does that mean you have to look at new ideas as well? Are you going to be in a few meetings in the next few hours?
Actually, as we are, have a fixed peg regime to the dollar, we will follow the Fed. So we will reduce our rate. I think this is positive for the U.A.E. economy. This will mean cheaper funding for corporates and SMEs, and this is good news.
So what happens to banks who don't comply or who are very delayed in extending credit the way you would like to see?
The banks, they are well capitalized. They are above 17% capital adequacy, so they have a lot of room to achieve this objective. And of course, if they don't participate, they don't get the zero interest facility from the central bank.
What about coordination on a GCC level? Because you saw calls for more coordination globally. The G7's on the phone. We understand the G20 is looking at ideas as well. Does that mean it's time for this region to start working together more on the policy response?
Actually, we had a very interesting and fruitful meeting yesterday where we have agreed to coordinate. We have been coordinating, and as you have seen, U.A.E. came first with its package, followed by Saudi Arabia after that. And a few days before, Kuwait also came with its package. Now I want to also announce or mention that U.A.E. government, in terms of the fiscal side, they're coming up with measures at federal level and local level.
And are those measures going to be enough, do you think, in terms of dealing with what is a twin shock for you, the coronavirus and the collapse in oil prices? This is a real challenge for the team that you're leading and for the country as a whole.
I think this is a challenge for the global, central banks and the global economy, and we have to really all work together to come up with measures to mitigate this big risk.
Where does that leave the peg, Governor? I know you said that you're going to be following the Fed in terms of the emergency rate cut. Would you like to have a little bit more flexibility in terms of making your own calls?
What do you mean by making our own call?
Well, by being tied to the peg, you are forced to follow what the Fed does. Is the peg the right fit for the United Arab Emirates at this point?
Yes, I think we have mentioned this a few times. You know, the peg has served us very well and continues to be. So we are committed to the peg, and actually now it's been productive to the U.A.E. economy with the lowering of rates at this time, and especially with also the low oil price.
What's the bigger risk, Governor, for the United Arab Emirates? Is it the coronavirus or is it the collapse in oil prices?
I think the biggest risk for all of us globally is the coronavirus now. So as soon as this is contained, things will hopefully come back. It will take time to come back, but I think the ultimate objective and the pressing objective now is really to contain this virus.
Can I get some closing thoughts on how long you suspect this might drag on for? Are you preparing for 3 or 6 months or even up to a year for the coronavirus to really show what kind of damage it's done and for the policies to take effect as planned?
We will always assess the situation, and we are willing to extend this scheme. So we have no hesitation to renew these measures. Before the end of the 6 months, we will assess, and if this is required, we will renew this.